So you can do this with a paring knife. I got these nice sharp paring knives here. They don't come that way. Make nice little sharpeners. Put a really good edge on these. But since I'm trying to do this for competition piece, I'm going to go super slow, and I'm going to use the scalpel blade. But, yeah, there we go. Hopefully you don't get too bored. Not used to going quite as slow as I'm gonna go, but so I would normally also hang this to skin out the body after doing the face. But I do not have a heated shop anymore. I have space that I share with the house, and I have access to part of the garage that is not being used for storage or blacksmithing. So I'm gonna skin this out on the well, I'm gonna try to skin her out on the table. Hopefully not do a terrible job or take forever. It will definitely go slower than it otherwise might have. Anything I'm doing is only one way you can do something. One of the things I love about conventions is the fact that I can keep learning new ways to do things. Keep improving. So this is just a way I'm using right now with what I know and what I have access to space-wise. Definitely not the only way. This is doing a pretty good job of mopping up the blood from the ears. That's great. I don't know if you can hear the crepitus there from the broken bones, but definitely some crunching. I love that trappers are now starting to work with those of us that are looking for specimens. Instead of just selling everything to the fur market, it really helps all of us because fur prices are going down, or are down. I don't know. I haven't sold fur as a trapper in many years, so I don't know. It may have been down for a while now. The same specimens for taxidermy can go for quite a bit higher. This one came from an awesome person in Virginia that is still working towards figuring out the best ways to prep and ship, and I feel like hopefully we helped each other out a bit, because I got this nice critter here to work on, and I was able to give him some pointers on shipping, which can be difficult right now with the pandemic. Used to, we would ship USPS priority, and during, it's January now, so it's cold, during the cold weather it would get where it's going fairly well. Now we're having to look at a lot of us using UPS and doing 2-day, which can cost quite a bit, which affects any of us selling raw and any of us trying to buy it. So I've gone to using a third-party shipper. Had pretty good success now. Still ships through UPS, it just goes through a third-party account to purchase, and that's it's been fine so far. It seemed to have worked fine for the young man that shipped this too. I think when we all work together, we get a little farther ahead. So I'm just going kind of slow. I left plenty of nose on there, and I usually leave a little more cartilage on the skull, but I'm used to saving the skulls for, I will resell them, or I will clean them and sell the completed skulls. I will still end up looking at how much damage is on this skull, and I will probably clean it for some of the, maybe some of the teeth or the jaw bones, so those can be used in crafts also, or maybe an aging specimen. I want to say this is, these are worn down so much, I don't know if she didn't, and it doesn't look like it, if she didn't do that on the trap or the wire cable on the trap, she's got to be pretty old. So these top ones are worn down too. I don't know. Something to bug the biologist about when I talk to them again. Put together a lot of deer aging plaques. I haven't actually done any for foxes yet though. That'd be kind of fun. I do volunteer interpretive work, so always looking for ways to do more with that too. I haven't done a lot of these videos. I'm used to talking to people and answering questions when I'm doing something interpretive, so hopefully the rambling is not boring. There, so I'm gonna, I think the first ones you do, if you just go slow and see where what attaches and what ligaments and tendons, muscles and cartilage hold stuff to where. After the first one, it's super easy. It's not much trouble at all. Now this has been frozen, so I'm not too worried about like my arm on the hair. If you trap one of these fresh and you're skinning it out, obviously probably don't want to bring it in your house, and also laying your arm on there, have fleas and mites and ticks and all kinds of not fun stuff to annoy you. Some people it doesn't bother. I will break out like crazy. And I have a kiddo, so try to be super careful. You could literally skin the whole head out through the face. Starting with the muzzle. It's not necessary, but I've done it. I do it on deer. So you can see the dark through there. If we go over here, you can see that starts getting into other stuff. For me, that's a good place to stop. I like stopping there. Yeah, that's a good stopping spot. When I get to that from the other side, it'll be easy peasy. Easy peasy. Now, going to don't have to do this. I'm doing this because, one, I don't want it getting caught on stuff and breaking whiskers, and two, I don't know where all the blood's gonna go. So I'm not 100% sure where. I think it's towards the back of the head where the dispatch hole is, but I'm not 100% sure. This may not even stay on there. Best way to keep hair is to cut from underneath, from the skin side. So I will blow and I will separate out a spot to start. And I will start my line. And then I can rock it that way, or I can rock it this way. Either way, all I've got to do at that point is slip it inside the fur. And I'm actually cutting from the underneath. Super sharp, so it's cutting almost as soon as I put it in there, but I'm basically sliding it under, and then you can rock it or just slide it. And it's, these that I'm using are so sharp at this point, it's like butter. It's some frozen stuff, so I just kind of rock it. And, you know, again, it's cutting from the underneath, so it does get a little bit of fur, but that's not even going to be noticeable. Sometimes I'll do the same thing on this side, especially with squirrels. I will start both and then I'll meet in the middle, but this one is going well enough. That's where I'm going to stop. I work with really sharp knives. Some people prefer not to do that. Perfectly fine either way. Just kind of start separating the seam. If this was hanging, might be a little easier. If this was hanging, I don't use hooks or chains anywhere that it contacts the hair. I would put like paracord and make sure it's snug before I hang it so it's not breaking hair. Paracord's also machine washable, which is nice. Some people use nylon. I have paracord laying around for other things, so that's what I use. Basically, it's still frozen on the inside. I was worried. I was worried for nothing, but that's fine. Some of the trouble areas for things spoiling are the belly, the tips of the paws, the tail, the muzzle, around the eyes, and the backs of the ears. So even though the core of this is still frozen, I wanted to get on it fairly quick. Well, as soon as I could start working on it. In case you're wondering, no, I don't thaw foxes in the house refrigerator. Right now I'm thawing them in the workspace outside because it is not at all heated and in the shade, so it is every bit as cold out there as our refrigerator. Again, this would go quicker if it were hanging and not frozen inside. But you basically keep skinning until you get a little bit of loose, and then we're going to take this joint and we're going to push the knee out and separate it. And the same thing on this side. And we're just going to peel it that way and keep going. Use my thumb and my fingers as much as I do the knives most of the time. I'm just wiggling it in there and loosening that kind of fascia that there is, and just pushing it over. Really important to not cut a hole in the skin. If you do, it's not the end of the world, but if you're a perfectionist like me, I try really hard not to. Of course, now that I said that, I am sure to put at least one hole in this at some point. Seems to be my luck. At least this week, anyway. This week's been a long week. I'd love to be able to skin and work everything on camera, but sometimes I just gotta work fast to get things done. That scared me. Thought I pushed my thumb through the skin. It's not. There's some connective tissue. That's fine. You can do that though. If you push too hard, you pull too hard, you can absolutely put a hole in this with just your fingers. Alright, so we got this to where the knee is. A lot of times I will actually skin this down to here, and I'll take it off at this joint. But that leaves a lot stuck to the carcass, and can make it harder to peel these big guys on the table. So I'm going to take it off at the knee. You don't need bone tools. Bone tools are unnecessary. You can just go through the meat, get to the joint. The bone is not fused. There are gaps. If you look here, it's just like butter. It would have taken me more work to use a bone saw than to do that. And I would have put bone chips everywhere and sharp pieces that, as this is moving around while I'm working it, could have poked through the hide. So just go through the, super easy to just slide that through there. Now that I can see the tail, I'm actually going to try to kind of separate stuff off a little bit. Once I get the skin and connective tissues freed up, I will probably try to use the tail ripper. The tail ripper is new to me. I learned to kind of tuck my nail in there and pull. It took me years to decide to try the new thing. Let's see if we can get it to snug down on there, but yeah, there we go. It really is much easier. I like it now that I've used it. But it just does that. I'm gonna go ahead and separate the tail off of here so I'm not slinging that around. Okay, I had to step away for a minute to find some shears. Actually, there we go. I don't know why that was being so difficult. Anytime you're using shears, be careful you don't get like hair stuck in the other end of what you're doing. I've done that before. That's disappointing. Set that elsewhere. Now that's out of our way. Now would be the perfect time to throw a rope over that and hang it. But as the aforementioned, I don't have, you know, I've got a regular ceiling up there. So we do have these nice studio lights here. Try and get, again, better video for all y'all watching. And for myself later if I forget something. I have some memory loss as a result of the car wreck. And just in case it progresses, I want to be able to go back and remember how to do stuff. Almost to the legs. Now, hot topic: to relief cut or not to relief cut. Some people will cut a little relief cut here, around here, because the paws are kind of big. Especially if I were to use this for a competition mount and I'm gonna put cast paws, then I'm probably gonna do some kind of cut here to help that stretch. If you're watching this because you want to sell to a taxidermist and you're skinning it, ask them what they want. I'm not even going to say, you know, the majority of this time do this. I try to leave everything intact. To be honest, if you're shipping to me, I tell people to cut them off, to skin down to here from the inside, not with a cut on the outside, but to peel that down to here and cut the foot off at this joint and leave it in there. I will skin that out myself. It also helps some of the delicate areas to have, you know, that mass, that meat in there, even though it's not much, will freeze and it'll keep that protected as opposed to just loose fur. Obviously we can't do anything about what's already here, but I'm gonna skin down and take the legs off after the carcass is moved. I'll end up going back and, you know, trimming these down. So we're down to the head and neck. If you were selling this with feet and skull left in, you'd be almost done. You'd really just pull this up to, just gonna pull on at these guys. Peel pretty easy. But you would just peel this up to here. The neck is up here, and you'd cut it off, and you're probably done. You can ship like that. You can also go back and skin these down just a little bit farther to this joint here. Take this off, and you would ship with this much of the foot in, and then, you know, the wrist on the front feet. Skin to skin, fold it up, bag it. So we are going to continue skinning down and take the skull off. Or, well, technically the face off the skull. These are beautiful animals. And you see how easy that's peeling off? This is thawed out, where this is frozen. You're able to let it thaw a little bit more, or you're skinning them, you know, on site before you freeze them. These go a lot quicker. If you got it hanging, they go quicker. And I guess if you're not trying to talk and share tips, it also goes a little quicker. Time is money for you guys that are trapping. It is for us too, but I still try to go slow. There's our first bit of congealed blood. As you can see, like, I don't need the knife. The more you can pull off without using the knife, the better. You're less likely to put a hole in something. One of the worst things is doing all that work, getting to the end, and damaging the ears or the eyes. So, for a lot of the taxidermists, we need the eyes in good shape. We need ear butt. We need the ears in good shape. And the tail. And the whiskers. And the toes. Like, these are things that, you know, on our end, when we do the work, holes in the body ain't gonna show. But if you've got a lot of broken whiskers, and you've got unnecessary cuts, you don't have, you know, all the pieces to the eye corners, you don't have the earbuds, and the, you know, other delicate areas in the face, that makes our job hard. If you're a customer, alright, I mean, I get that a lot myself. That's cool, I can work around that. I can let them know, hey, there's damage to this area. It may not be fully invisible when it's done. And that is, you know, it may look like they had a scar. When doing these for competition, any little thing can be what makes the difference in the points that gets us ahead. So that's important. So here's the part where if you were gonna cut the skull off, you stop here, and cervical vertebrae attaches out there. This one's a little squishier than it normally would be because it was shot. You can see the hole came out here. This structure right here is actually part of the ear cartilage. Like, this is turned a little bit, and the ear actually attaches down in here somewhere. It's hard to feel on this. It should be about, it's kind of in the area where the jaw transmandibular joint is, but it is, you can feel it. Like, if you're feeling on it, you can feel where that tube goes in here. So when you get to the neck, so you follow this around, cut towards the neck, and then towards this way, and see, there it is. You'll find it. It's not hard to find. You can see it right there. So that's actually where the ear attaches. And it's a lot easier to just skin this down to the neck I cut that there. One of the most frustrating things for me is when I get one in and somebody has cut the ear here, or you see where the meat kind of turns white, they'll cut it here. I don't always use fake ears. I like to use the real ears. I will sometimes build the ears. I won't use like fake liners. I will go with what's there, and I will use sculpting epoxy or Bondo, and I will, you know, form and build the ears. And if the inner ear structure, so this is where it kind of curves, if that inner ear structure is in there, I can work with that. If it's not there, I'm gonna have to use, especially for competition, I'm gonna have to use competition ear liners that have all that detail, and I'm gonna have to epoxy and mold that stuff, that seam there. It's not that I mind doing it, but I like to use everything that's there as much as I can. So that's one of the big things that happens a lot when I get one in, is somebody has tried to be helpful and save me skinning work, and instead of a little bit of skinning work, they actually create hours of me being a perfectionist and trying to rebuild all of that. Into the crunchy stuff, so it's a little harder. It should be. Right there it is. And that is way more than I'll use, yes. So I'll end up trimming some off. But if you're selling one, when you do this, there is enough there for someone to make the choice what they're going to use. And if someone wants to build, you know, do any kind of modeling or building off of things like the ear cartilage, they can do that. Yes, you can 3D scan in ear cartilage and print a copy of it for that animal if you want to. You can also make a cast of it, that ear cartilage. Is that a lot of extra work? Yes. Is it necessary? Probably not, unless you have an animal that has like healed damage or something to their ear, like split-eared bucks, or, you know, something like that. You know, how cool is it to be able to make an exact copy of what was there? I actually learned the 3D scanning, which we call photogrammetry. You take pictures and you turn it into 3D models of what you were taking pictures of. I actually learned that doing work with NOAA through the university for shipwrecks up in Thunder Bay. Kind of surprising, the overlap on skills sometimes. But now I can use it for everything from feet. I can make casts of the actual feet from the animal that way. I'm not going to, for this, if I do the feet, I'm actually going to use polycast. It's a little quicker. We can also copy skulls and bird heads of the exact animals, which again, there's a lot of products on the market, and I do buy products from the taxidermy supplies as well, but say you get a hybrid in, like a pheasant chicken. They don't make those, so being able to scan that animal's skull in and use that, super helpful. Yes, I've seen those. They're they're interesting. So here is the next place to be careful. So the eye is right here. You can see the bottom part of the eye socket. Also kind of look at where the ear hole is lined up to the eye. But anyway, I'm going to try to get all of the same stuff from the back corner of the eye like I did on the front, which was skinned out on this one before we got to here. So the front of this fox's face up to the just past the front corner of the eye is already skinned out. So we're going to try and go super slow and get everything. Now if I'm saving these for bone work, I try not to. These nicks won't show up. This is in. There's actually superficial stuff there that won't be on the bone work. But I do try to not put deep cuts in bone when I'm selling them. Either for somebody else to do bone work on or to do bone work myself. But since this one is crunchy, it's a little less important. And my main focus with this is getting the hide off as perfect as possible. So I don't see where the head bullet went in, which is a little disturbing. I hope we didn't get shot in the ear itself. So the exit wound is in the neck. It's a little strange. Ah, it must be. There it is. Must be in here. Wow. It's super crunchy bone there. Maybe I can place you. Probably not the best example to try and show anybody how to get these out of here with the skull being flexible at the moment. But you can see like the eye is under here, so all of that skin from the eye is attached to the fur, which is right where we want it. Okay, found, yep, I did. I have found the part where we scanned to 2 before doing the body. And I like going up to here, this is why. Okay, now we're actually recording again for the 3rd time. Had to change out the battery. And that's twice now that I thought the record button was on and it wasn't. So I had been talking about how skinning from the front of the face into the front corner of the eye before we skinned out the rest was important, because then when we come here we can actually get our finger behind here, get a hold of it, and make that incision here, be able to see the nictitating membrane, and make sure that it's attached to the hide. The nictitating membrane is this guy here. Doesn't look like much, but adding that back into the mount makes a huge difference in whether or not the mount looks real or just derpy. I'm going to try and show that on this side since we didn't get good video of the other side. And by good video, I mean we got none because it poopered out. Alright. So again, because we skinned out the front of the face and I can actually go ahead and pull it out, we have all the way into the front corner of the eye, skinned here. Now we're just matching up the back. Super careful and steady as we go. This is one of the other big mistakes. Well, I guess not mistake, but yeah, mistake that I see with other point where mistakes can be made, and they're frustrating for any of us who make them, is getting all of the eye and not cutting into the eye skin. So I am going to scratch really super close in this back corner till I can start getting to the eye. There. Now the skin is actually coming away from the eye, and I know I'm less likely to cut it. And I'm just going to pull and scratch and pull and scratch. And now I can see this is the eyeball. So I can kind of open this up just a little bit here, cut through the top skin. And here is that nictitating membrane. This little dude is what we want attached. So I'm going to keep going like this, just cutting towards, scratch cutting towards the eyeball so that it loosens off of there. Just like this. I have popped eyeballs like this, yes, it happens. Not that big a deal. But then I can go here. And now the nictitating membrane is attached. This is not the lower eyeball, or lower eyeball, no. It's not the eyeball. And it's not the lower lid. That is something different. Like you can see, all the eyelid is in there. And all the stuff in the front corner and back corner is in there. But we also have this guy here. And what will happen is this will get tanned with the skin, and then it'll get cut off, so it doesn't matter, like it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. It'll get cut off, it'll be trimmed, and it will be tucked back on there when it's mounted. God, she's a pretty animal. Alright, so see if I can't show you some of that from the other side here. Might be a little easier to see. And some loose fur. I'm interested to see how she looks after I get her cleaned up and groomed. So I don't need that on there anymore. That did its job and kept the mess down to a minimum. I love these. These mats are actually incontinence pads. You can get them in the medical section of a lot of the, even just grocery stores, like big box grocery stores sometimes have them in their pharmacy section. But they're washable and they absorb. They don't go. It doesn't go through. So. Yeah, there we go. So we can kind of get a look at her now. I'll show you these gorgeous eyes here. We want all this. Show you these gorgeous eyes here. We want all this. This is awesome. Does everybody use it? No. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So you can see that black bit's the nictitating membrane. You've got, you know, all the eyelashes, the eyelid. All of this is attached. This is awesome. I would be happy if I got something like this skinned in the mail. And it does happen. Some of the folks I get hides from are awesome at what they do. But for those of you that are not there yet and looking at this because you want to know what I'm looking for, this is it. This, perfect. Look at all that nictitating membrane. You got all of the nose here. I like to use real noses. You know, all of the lip is here. All of the lip. Everything's here. And then, like I was talking about with the ears and the earbuds, you know, there's a lot of, well, you can't see as much through the blood. There's a lot of detail in there that could otherwise be cut off. And there's hairs on that. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. there's actually, look at all those little hairs. If you cut that off, I can build this, but I don't know, those hairs really sell it for me. Alright, here's that. So, there we go. There she is.